Well, okay, so this paper, which is titled India Under Company's Rule, 1757 to 1856. So, in 1757, with the Battle of Plassey, it is believed that the British conquest of India has started. And in 1857, after the revolt, the rule of British India, that is, which was ruled by East India Company so far, is being taken over by the British crown, that is British king and queen. So this period, roughly period of 100 years, is considered as the rule of East India Company which was basically formed to conduct the trading activities with the eastern countries. But gradually, over a period of time, they have taken over the administration here. Here in the first unit, first topic that we'll be discussing today is about the political situation of mid 18th century, because 1850s is the mid 18th century. Few that side, fewer that side, fewer this side, fewer that side. We need to understand what kind of political situation was prevailing in India so that the Britishers could take an advantage of this. And then, after discussing this political situation, we'll be discussing two important battles: 1757 and 1764. That is Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar, which had in fact strengthened the British route in India. And then after that, we'll be discussing about Anglo-Maratha Wars. Like, when Britishers they started their conquest of India, that is East India Company, the most formidable challenge to them came from the Marathas. They had a very extensively spread empire, and military they were the strongest people. There are three Anglo-Maratha wars which were fought, and finally the Marathas were defeated by the Britishers, and the Maratha Empire became extinct. And now, after that, we will be discussing about Anglo-Sick Wars. Sikh power was also another power which resisted British conquest for a very long period. The Sikh ruler Ranjit Singh was very, very clever, very brave as well, and he resisted the British encroachment on his territory. But then, after his death, there are two important Anglo-Sikh war, and at the end of the second Anglo-Sikh War, the Sikh Empire became extinct. So that we'll be discussing. So this comprises of your first unit. That is, first thing is political situation, and then these battles. First unit is basically dealing with how the British East India Company have conquered the Indian territory by directly by engaging in the battles with the Indian powers. And then next is unit 2 deals with what are the different techniques that is used by the Britishers in expanding their empire or expanding their hegemony. We have the subsidiary alliance system, which is used by the Britishers to encroach or to get entry into the territory of the Indian ruler. Then we have policy of annexation of the Indian states, where the Britishers they annex the Indian state to their empire, and then up to doctrine of lapse. Now, this paper, relatively, this is a quite easy paper. Many of things you must have studied so far in graduation. Third unit, of course, that is taken by that will be covered by Patil sir, who will be discussing about the different important acts that regulated the company's activities in India. And the fourth unit, that is dawn of the modern era, Western, with the coming of the Britishers came Western education, and then Raja Ram Mohan Rai, important pioneer in the reform, and his Brahmo Samaj that he will cover up, and development of English and vernacular phrase. So this is in general your syllabus. So technically speaking, this is not a very heavy syllabus. It's quite simple syllabus, and we will be starting with today's first topic, where we will be discussing about the 18th century India. Well, okay. Now, India in the mid 18th century, it is considered as a very important century, because it in a way it has started an era of modernity in India. The old feudal system that was prevailing under the decadence Mughal, as well as the Marathas, was slowly replaced by the Britishers, who brought a different kind of administrative structure. They have unified India, so on and so forth. But at the same time, the economic exploitation of India has also started. India became a colony, and the economy that developed under the Britishers was of colonial nature. So it's quite important to understand the situation which facilitated the British conquest of India. The very important political situation that we see is a decline of the Mughals. You know, the Mughal Empire, which started with Babur in 1526, remained quite strong and intact till 1707, till the death of Aurangzeb, the last great Mughal. And but with the death of Aurangzeb, started the process of disintegration. The successor of Aurangzeb were not very strong. They were quite weak, and they could not hold the empire together. They had no control over their governors, who gradually became independent. And at the same time, there were a lot of court factions. See, when the emperor, is there anybody from Hindi medium today in the class?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, निदा निदा इज देयर। ओ ओके निदा, हाँ निदा मुझे रिमाइंड कर दिया कि जो मैं भूल जाता हूँ। अच्छा, ओके, निदा, हम लोग 18वीं सदी में क्या यहाँ पर राजनीतिक परिस्थिति थी जिसके कारण ब्रिटिशों को ये आसान हुआ, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को, कि वो यहाँ के जो रूलर थे, राजा महाराजा थे, उनको हराए और यहाँ पर भारत के ऊपर अपना आधिपत्य स्थापित करे। तो हम लोग सबसे पहले देखते हैं कि सबसे पहला पॉइंट है कि ये 18वीं सदी जो थी काफी महत्वपूर्ण सदी थी। इससे मॉडर्निटी का एक दौर शुरू हुआ, आधुनिकता का दौर शुरू हुआ, ऐसे माना जाता है ब्रिटिशों के आने के बाद में। और उस समय की राजनीतिक परिस्थिति में एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात यह है कि मुगलों का रास होने लगा था। मुगल एम्पायर, मुगल साम्राज्य, जिसकी शुरुआत बाबर ने की थी 1526 में, उसको हम लोग देखते हैं कि औरंगजेब की मृत्यु के बाद में, 1707 के बाद में, उसके औरंगजेब के जो सक्सेसर थे, उस औरंगजेब के जो उत्तराधिकारी थे, वो बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रांग नहीं थे। वो अपनी एम्पायर को इंटैक्ट नहीं रख पाए, अपने गवर्नर्स को अपने काबू में नहीं रख पाए। और जब क्या होता है, जब भी कोई एम्पायर अगर स्ट्रांग नहीं होता है, तो आपस के झगड़े ज्यादा बाहर निकल कर आते हैं। तो वहां पर मुगलों के कोर्ट में क्या हो गया ना, काफी फैक्शन बन गए, काफी ग्रुप बन गए। जैसे कि ईरानी और तुरानी संघर्ष एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण इंपॉर्टेंट संघर्ष है, कि जो लोग ईरान से आते थे, तो पीपल हु वेर कमिंग फ्रॉम ईरान, दे वर नोन एज ईरानी, और जो लोग तुरान से आते थे, तुर्की होते थे, उनको तुरानी कहा जाता था। सो दे यूज्ड टू फॉर्म देयर ग्रुप एंड दे यूज्ड टू ट्राई टू मोनोपोलाइज द पावर। पावर को मोनोपोलाइज करने की कोशिश करते थे, अपने लोगों को हाई पोस्ट देने की कोशिश करते थे, एंड दे यूज्ड टू ट्राई दैट द किंग शुड, द एम्परर शुड रिमेन अंडर देयर कंट्रोल, एंड दिस हैज कंसिडरेबली वीकन द मुगल एम्पायर। एंड द नोबेलिटी को हम लोग देखते हैं, तो नोबेलिटी वाज क्वाइट डिजनरेटेड। जो जिस तरीके से ब्रेवरी और जिस तरीके से एक्टिवनेस अर्ली मुगल में हमें दिखाई देती है, जो बाबर के साथ में हिंदुस्तान में आए थे, वी डोंट फाइंड दे वर क्वाइट नाउ एडिक्टेड टू वेरी लग्जरियस। इवन लड़ाई में भी जाते थे तो अपनी पालकी में बैठ के जाएंगे। सो दिस काइंड ऑफ पीपल, दे कुड नॉट फाइट अगेंस्ट द हार्डी मराठास और अगेंस्ट द राजपूत, who were quite swift in their movement. And they used to have large number of wives and concubines, and very elaborate establishment उनका होता था, और उनको वो लड़ाई के मैदान में भी ले जाते थे। So that has considerably weakened the mobility of the army. So generally we find that the Mughals were on the decline. और मुगल डिक्लाइन होने लगे, तो उसके साथ साथ में रीजनल पावर्स भी बढ़कर सामने आ गए, और उसमें जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण, सबसे स्ट्रांग पावर बढ़कर सामने है, वो है मराठास। मराठा हिस्ट्री के बारे में आप लोग थर्ड और फोर्थ सेमिस्टर में पढ़ेंगे। तो मराठों का राज्य जो छत्रपति शिवाजी ने छोटा सा शुरू किया था, ही फॉट अगेंस्ट द बीजापुर, आदिल शाह बीजापुर, देन ही फॉट अगेंस्ट मुगल। और उसके बाद में इन 1681 औरंगजेब ही कम्स टू महाराष्ट्र विद अ ह्यूज आर्मी, and for around 27 years he continued to fight against the Marathas, and that has drained the Mughal treasury. औरंगजेब काफी समय दिल्ली से, आगरा से दूर रहा, महाराष्ट्र में रहा, so that has considerably weakened his hold on the administration. So that was also one of the important reason of the decline of the Mughal. लेकिन ये 27 साल की जो लड़ाई थी, the Marathas, they became very trained in fighting. And they started gradually coming out from Maharashtra. They started attacking Mughal territories, and देन सिचुएशन ऐसी हो गई कि वहाँ जो कोर्ट फैक्शन जो होते थे, ईरानी, तुरानी और अलग अलग जो भी आपस के जो अलग अलग गुट होते थे, दे इवन स्टार्टेड टेकिंग हेल्प ऑफ द मराठास टू एक्सटेंड देयर इन्फ्लुएंस। एंड इसी प्रोसेस में, इन दिस प्रोसेस, देयर वर सैयद ब्रदर्स हु वेर हैविंग अ सिग्निफिकेंट क्लिट, significant hold over the Mughal court. This Sayyid brother, they took the help of the Marathas in removing फारूक सियर, the Mughal emperor, and putting somebody else on the throne. क्योंकि ये नोबेलिटी हमेशा ये कोशिश करती थी कि सिंहासन पे मुगल सम्राट वो बने जो हमारी बात सुने। तो मराठों की हेल्प लेने के बाद में क्या हुआ, द मराठास इन रिटर्न ऑफ दैट द मराठास वेर गिवन सनद। सनद, उस सनद मतलब क्या, इट इज अ रॉयल फरमान, लॉयर ऑर्डर, एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट सनद द मराठास वेर अलाउड टू कलेक्ट द चौथ फ्रॉम द 6 सूबास ऑफ डेक्कन। डेक्कन के जो 6 मुगल सूबा थे वहां से मराठास को चौथ और सरदेशमुखी कलेक्ट करने का एक अथॉरिटी मिल गई मुगलों की तरफ से। And so you see, this was one of the important landmark in the growth of the Marathas. Now Marathas became the legally authorized Sardeshmukh, that is landlord of Deccan, who could take the taxes. और उसके बाद में हम लोग देखते हैं कि मराठों की पावर जो है बढ़ने लगी। वहां पर शाहू छत्रपति बन गए 1707 के बाद में, and then he was ably assisted by Peshwas, and we have a series of Peshwas like Balaji Vishwanath, who was instrumental in bringing this Sanad in 1719, and then his son Bajirao Peshwa, Bajirao first, who really turned this Maratha kingdom into an empire. He was a person who thought of plan and thought and executed attack on the Mughal territory in the northern India. So technically, though the Marathas, according to this Sanad, claim themselves as a vessel of the मुगलों के vessel हो गए, मुगलों के अधीन हो गए, but they themselves started attacking the Mughal territory, and the Maratha empire, it went on expanding towards north, south, in all the direction. And in fact, in 1752 situation ऐसी बन गई कि in 1752 the Marathas took the responsibility of the protection of the Mughal emperor. मुगलों का जो सम्राट था उसकी रक्षा की जिम्मेदारी और मुगल एम्पायर की रक्षा की जिम्मेदारी मराठों ने अपने सिर पे ले ली। और उसी के कारण क्या हुआ, they came in contact, they came in conflict with Ahmad Shah Abdali. Ahmad Shah Abdali was the ruler of Afghanistan, and he was also interested in extending his empire in the northern part of India, Punjab and all. But as Marathas were also interested in expanding their empire, these both power they clashed in the third battle of Panipat, which was fought in 1761. And this is an important battle, one of the most hotly contested battle, and one of the most deadly battle, leading to the loss of large number of lives in the mid 18th century. In this battle, Ahmad Shah Abdali and Marathas they fought, and Marathas finally lost the battle. And this has created a kind of political vacuum. Marathas जो politically supreme थे North India में जो हार गए, so this has created political vacuum. They could not pay attention to what Britishers are doing in Bengal and other places, and the Britishers they took advantage of it, and they started expanding their power. So among the regional power, the discussion about Marathas is very important. Now the next important power that was prevailing in India in the mid 18th century were Rajputs. The Rajputs, for a very long period, they were supporter of the Mughal because Akbar had followed a liberal religious policy, but that Akbar's religious policy was reversed by Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb discriminated against Hindus, he discriminated against Rajputs, and as a result, these Rajputs, they turned against the Mughal. They revolted against Aurangzeb, and later on, they continue to fight with the Mughal or continue to ally with the Mughal depending on the situation. And we find that these two important Rajput kings like Savai Jai Singh of Jaipur and Ajit Singh of Marwar playing a very important role in the Mughal court, as well as trying to expand their own their territory of influence. They also supported Marathas on occasion, but they turned against the Marathas later on in the third battle of Panipat. They did not support the Marathas for their, of course, their interests clash because Marathas political structure was not very streamlined. They used to attack the territory, take the chouth, and they did not really paid good attention to streamline the administration to get the revenue system on the right footing. And the Rajputs they thought that Marathas are just exploiting them. So we had this conflict, though the Mughal Empire was on the decline. The regional power also they were conflicting in conflict with each other. Though Marathas and Rajputs, as we have seen, they did cooperate on some occasion, but they had their own differences. And the Marathas' intervention of their internal matters also was not liked by the Rajputs. Then as Rajputs, but they were, now they became virtually independent. They were not anyway under the control of the Mughal emperor anymore, as Marathas were not under the control of the Mughal emperor anymore. And same thing happened in case of Bengal also. As the central authority became weak, the far-flung territory, they had a tendency to become independent. And the Nawabs of Bengal, they understood the situation, and it was Alivardi Khan in 1739. He was Nawab of Bengal. He became virtually independent of the rule of Delhi. Then Awadh, that is present-day UP, which is very close to Delhi. Here also, as the emperor was no longer strong, Safdarjung, the Nawab of Awadh, he also became virtually independent. And then later on, his son Suja-ud-Dowla, he also remained a kind of independent. And Suja-ud-Dowla, though initially cooperated with Marathas, later on he joined hands with Ahmad Shah Abdali in the third battle of Panipat and fought against the Marathas. Then came the next important power was Jat. Churaman Jat was the important leader who established a kingdom in around Bharatpur area, and then his son was Surajmal, who was also very capable, who was the king of Jat in from 1756 to 1763. And in the third battle of Panipat, initially he supported Marathas, but then he developed differences with the Marathas. Then he came out from that battle and he remained neutral. But later on, after the defeat of the Marathas, he did support. And he was a person who very he was a quite a power to reckon with, because he successfully defended himself when Ahmad Shah Abdali attacked him. So this is the another power, the Jat power. Now there is Nizam. So Nizam was, Chinklij Khan. He was in fact Mughal noble, and he was in Delhi holding the high important position. But then, he saw the situation, how the Mughal emperor and the situation in Delhi is being deteriorated, and then he thought that, okay, I should have my own independent kingdom. And then in 1724, he establishes himself as an independent ruler at first in Aurangabad, and then the Nizam kingdom moves to Hyderabad. So he assumes the title of Nizam ul Mulk Asif Jahan. So his dynasty, which ruled for a very longer period, came to be known as Asif Jahi dynasty. But many of these rulers like Nawab of Bengal or Nizam, they did not completely declare themselves as an independent ruler. On the other hand, they called themselves as the representative of the Mughal, but then continue to rule their kingdom virtually as an independent ruler. Mysore, under the king of Mysore, there was a commander called Hyder Ali, and he slowly, eclipsed the Hindu king. He became the supreme ruler of Mysore, and then his son succeeded him. But that is later on, a little later development. But nevertheless, I am just telling you about the prevailing situation in the mid 18th century. Few years that side, few years this side, few years that side. Sikhs were also during this time slowly, organizing themselves. But Sikh Empire under Ranjit Singh came into existence around 1780. That is a little bit. That is towards the end of the 18th century. So we are not going into the too much of detail. Just mentioning that Sikhs were also trying to organize into the empire during those days in the mid 18th century. In the mid 18th century, these two invasions are very important, which has considerably weakened the Mughal further. That is invasion of Nadirisha 1739, just before the mid of the 18th century. He came from Persia. He penetrated up to Delhi, and Delhi he massacred the population, and the Mughal emperor could not do anything. And same thing has done by Ahmad Shah Abdali. He invaded India a number of times, and it was Marathas who tried to check him at the Battle of Panipat. But finally, he came out successful, but then he was also considerably lost the manpower in the battle. The Marathas fought very valiantly. That is what Ahmad Shah Abdali himself writes about the Marathas. And then he also went back to Afghanistan. But these two invasions, it gave a kind of blow to the prestige of the Mughal Empire, because it has proved to the world, proved to the people, that the Mughals are not in a position to protect their boundaries. They are not in a position to protect their own people. As the massacre of Delhi by Nadir Shah, large number of people were mercilessly killed by Nadir Shah, and the Mughal emperor could not do anything. So we see that it is not only the Mughal emperor, but it was no Indian power had a capacity to successfully defend the boundaries. to successfully defend what we call as India. India was, of course, not politically united. It was divided into the different fragments, and all these Indian powers, they used to have fight against each other in order to increase their power. Now we see that this European people, they came to India with the intention of doing business. So we find that Portuguese, Dutch, French, and English, they came, and they saw the opportunity that there is a political vacuum. The Indian ruler, they don't have very advanced army, and we can, gradually establish our area of influence. And as they tried to do it, obviously they came in conflict with each other as well. So these Portuguese and Dutch, they remain confined to the very small area. Like Portuguese remain confined to Goa, and Dutch, they all together left for some other area in the Indian Ocean. But it was French and English who contested for their domination over India, and they fought they fought a number of wars in southern part of India, and there are at least three wars which are very famous. Three Carnatic Wars, which were fought between 1748 to 1763. So this is in the middle of the 18th century. That these two European powers, they were contesting for the domination over India, and finally we find that English, they came out as successful. French were defeated for a variety of reasons. French company was not supported by the people. It was a company owned by the nobility, and they did not had a proper administrative structure. Whatever the reason might be, British came out finally successful in this contest. Now we see that in this period, 18th century, early and middle 18th century, there is a gradual rise of the English, and the very important phase in the rise of the English as an important power is 1717. In 1717, Emperor Farrukhsiyar, he felt sick, and one British doctor was sent from Bengal. Being the Britishers were traded there to cure him. He was cured, and the Britishers, in any case, were pursuing for the special privilege for the trade. And as the king was cured, he gave this special farman to East India Company, and according to this farman, East India Company was allowed for free trading in West Bengal. Sorry, West Bengal is present. It is West Bengal. Free trading in Bengal. Now, what does it mean by free trading? They will not have to pay the tax while selling their goods, neither while purchasing their goods. So the company officials are authorized to give dastak. Dastak is a written signed documents, and if the goods goes by that documents, along with that document, then nowhere that will be taxed in Bengal and Bihar. So remember this dastak, and remember this farman of 1717, because this will be referred to when we will be talking about the Battle of Plasti later on in our next topic. But this is a very important thing. Now the Britishers, they don't have to pay the tax, but the other Indian merchants, they have to pay the tax. So the Britishers were at an advantage. So that gradually increased the hold of the Britishers hold the economy of Bengal. And there was a misuse of this dastak. It is not only East India Company's goods that were going from one place to another place without paying any taxes, but it was also the goods of the employee of the East India Company, the servants of East India Company, who were also engaging in the private trade. They used to serve East India Company. East India Company's main business was to procure the goods from India, sell it to the European countries, bring the goods from European countries, and sell it to the Indian people. So this was the basic purpose that East India Company came into existence. And this East India Company servant, they used to support this trade. That was their job supposed to be. But simultaneously, they will also engage in the private trade. They, by investing their own money, they will buy certain goods and send it to England or Europe. And what they will do is they will misuse this dastak. Along with the company's good, they will send their goods also, and they will send the dastak, so that they don't have to pay the taxes. So as they don't have to pay the taxes, that was beneficial. They could sell the goods at a comparatively cheaper rate. And this misuse of dastak later on became a very important reason of the conflict leading to the Battle of Plassey. Well, now the next important event that is Battle of Plasti and Battle of Buxus, which we will be discussing later on. Here, just I want to make the passing references because we need to understand the political situation around the mid 18th century. That these two battles had proved greatly advantageous to the Britishers. Plasti and Buxar, it has increased their power. It has given them a lot of rights in Bengal territory. Now let us turn to the socio-religious condition. There was a lot of superstitious belief. The Indian society and religion. It had a remarkable decadence. Their economic condition was on the decline because this power like Marathas and the Nawab of Bengal and Nizam, they used to constantly fight against against each other, and as a result, there was no peace in the country. There was trading activities and were badly hampered. Economic condition was worstly hit because these states that came into existence, they were mostly tax collecting states. Like let it be Marathas or anybody, they did not take a very elaborate steps to improve the condition of the peasants, or elaborate to improve the condition of the normal citizen. They used to impose the taxes without really bothering whether the people are in a position to pay or not. Even when the Marathas army used to march, they used to destroy a lot of agriculture. So the economic condition became pretty bad. Then the Britishers, they followed the policy of in a such a way that the Indian handicraft industries were ruined. Further, उससे क्या हुआ, इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन और भी ज़्यादा खराब होने लगी थी, क्योंकि ब्रिटिशों ने जो अपना फैक्ट्री में बना हुआ सामान जो था वो सस्ते में यहाँ बेचते थे, और जहाँ पर भी ब्रिटिशों का अपना अधिकार जम जम जाता था, वहाँ के लोगों को वो कम से कम दामों में अपना हाथ से बना हुआ सामान बेचने के लिए ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को मजबूर करते थे। तो ये सब के कारण क्या हुआ, इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन काफी खराब होने लगी थी। और बाद में हम लोग देखते हैं कि इसी समय में मिड 18 सेंचुरी में यूरोपियन पावर जहां जहां आके बस गई थी, जैसे कि गोवा में पोर्तुगीज और पांडिचेरी में जो फ्रेंच थे, और ब्रिटिश हो जैसे वेस्ट बंगाल में वगैरह, बंगाल में ज्यादा थे, वहां पर उन्होंने क्रिश्चियन मिशनरीज को लाया। दे स्टार्टेड वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन देयर। तो कमिंग ऑफ द वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन वाज आल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट फिनोमेना ऑफ दिस सेंचुरी। 18th सेंचुरी की एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात है। और उन लोगों ने अपने वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन के साथ साथ में इंडियन कल्चर को भी आगे बढ़ाना शुरू किया था। मैं बीच में थोड़ा सा हिंदी बोलना छूट गया था मेरा, सो विल जस्ट क्विकली गो थ्रू इन हिंदी। देखिए 18वीं सदी एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सदी मानते हैं, तो इसके अगर हम पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन देखने की कोशिश करते हैं तो सबसे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात है कि मुगल एम्पायर का राज होना शुरू हो गया था। जो रीजनल पावर उभर कर सामने आई थी उसमें मराठास, राजपूत, नवाब ऑफ बंगाल, अवध का जो सुजाउद्दौला था, जाट, निजाम, मैसूर एंड सिख। सिख का राइज तो खैर धीरे धीरे होने लगा था, मैसूर की भी, हैदर अली की भी पावर धीरे धीरे बढ़ने लगी थी। दैट बिकेम अ मोर इंपॉर्टेंट पावर इन द लेट 18th सेंचुरी। 18th सेंचुरी के अंत में ये महत्वपूर्ण हो गई, लेकिन इसके पहले मिडल 18th सेंचुरी में ये सारी पावर यफ तक काफी महत्वपूर्ण थी, और ये आपस में लड़ते रहते थे। उसमें से मराठास जो है, दे वेर मिलिटरी मोस्ट सुप्रीम, एंड मुगल एम्पर को भी उन्होंने प्रोटेक्ट करने का जिम्मा लिया था 1752 में, और उसी के कारण दे केम इन क्लैश विथ अहमद शाह अब्दाली के साथ में उनका कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो गया, लीडिंग टू द थर्ड बैटल ऑफ पानीपत, जिसमें मराठे हार गए। अहमद शाह अब्दाली भी वापस चला गया, और जब इतनी बड़ी पावर हार गई थी तो एक पॉलिटिकल वैक्यूम हो गया, पॉलिटिकली मराठा वीक हो गए, और जिसका बहुत बड़ा एडवांटेज ब्रिटिशों को मिला। और उसी समय में 18वीं सदी के आसपास ही नादिर शाह और अहमद शाह अब्दाली के इन्वेशन होते थे, जिसके कारण भी मुगल एम्पायर फिर फर्दर वीक होगी। उसी समय यूरोप लोगों का भी आना यहाँ पर पहले से शुरू हो गया था, बट यूरोपियन ऑल्सो दे वेर इंपॉर्टेंट पावर, एंड इन दैट उसमें से जो दो महत्वपूर्ण पावर थे वो थे फ्रेंच और इंग्लिश। और उन्होंने यहाँ पर इंडिया में किसकी हेजीमोनी चलेगी, इंडिया में किसका हाथ में पावर रहेगा, उसके लिए इन दोनों में लड़ाई हुई, जिसको हम आमतौर पर कर्नाटक वॉर के नाम से जानते हैं। और उसमें इंग्लिश की विजय हुई, देखिए हम सक्सेसफुली। और बाद में हम लोग देखते हैं कि 1717 में उनको एक फरमान दिया गया, जिसके कारण उनको अधिकार दिया गया कि बंगाल में वो फ्री ट्रेडिंग कर सके। बाद में प्लासी और बक्सर की लड़ाई हुई 57 और 64 में, जिसके कारण उनकी पावर और बढ़ गई। सोशो रिलीजियस कंडीशन के बारे में हम लोग देखते हैं कि सोसाइटी के ट्रेडिशनल डिवीजन हुआ करते थे, अनटचेबिलिटी भी काफी थी, और समाज आपस में बटा हुआ था, सुपरस्टिशियस भी बहुत थी रिलीजन में। इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन काफ़ी बुरी होने लगी थी, क्योंकि ये जो पावर थी, इंडियन पावर, ये हमेशा आपस में लड़ती थी। उसके कारण एग्रीकल्चर का भी रूइन हो गया। ये मोस्टली टैक्स कलेक्टिंग स्टेट्स थे, उन्होंने कभी अपनी जनता की कंडीशन के बारे में बहुत ज़्यादा काम नहीं किया। ट्रेड भी डिसरप्ट हो गया था। हैंडीक्राफ्ट इंडस्ट्रीज जो थी वो ब्रिटिश पॉलिसी के कारण यहाँ पर वो रूइन होगी, वो खराब होने लगी, खत्म होने लगी। और लेकिन उसी समय पश्चिमी शिक्षा भी यहाँ पर आने लगी थी। जो क्रिश्चियन मिशनरीज आए थे, उन्होंने भारतीय समाज का और उसकी संस्कृति का अध्ययन भी करना शुरू कर दिया था। So this is in generally speaking the condition of 18th century India. Now, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Yes.